Hi guys, today I am here doing the reread book tag. Alright, so there are 9 questions. We're going to get straight into it. It should hopefully be a nice, short, fun little video. The first one is, let's assume you do reread if you're doing this tag. Where do you sit on the scale between almost never rereading and always rereading? I sit on the always rereading. I love rereads. They're so much fun. They're my favourite books. If I'm not going to reread a book, I don't want to keep it. I'll get rid of it. And that's how I do my reading. If I'm never going to reread it, bye. If I'm going to reread it, keep it. Why not? So I sit on the always rereading. I always reread books. I love rereading books. The next question kind of follows on, and that is, has this changed over your life? Not really. If I enjoy a book, I will always reread it. I've always done that. Sometimes I pick up a book immediately and reread. Sometimes I leave it for a while. It's never changed. I've always reread my favourite books because I have a sense of love and care for these books, and these books have obviously given me something I want to reread for. So I'm going to. Question 3 is, when do you reread? Do you reread immediately after? Do you wait a few years? Or do you just do it when the mood fancies? Recently, I have tried to leave it so that it's at least 1 year between the books I reread. Just because recently I started my booktube channel. I say recently, it was this year. And I didn't want my channel to be, I reread this book that I read last month. I reread this book that I've literally just finished. I picked it back up and read it again. I wanted to be reading a range of books. So I've kind of made a new rule to only read once a year. I will never read a book more than once a year. I mean, there's a chance that might be different, but I'm setting that personal goal of only reading a book once a year just because I want to read new things. I have a huge TBR. My TBR is 393 or something like that right now. I'll need to be rereading books. So I always try and set a goal of do it once a year. And it's been difficult. This year, I've read some amazing books I've just wanted to pick up the next one for, and I've not been able to. And I don't mind, it's fine. But January is coming soon, so I'll be picking them back up. Question 4 is, why do you reread books? I reread books because I said earlier, they give me a sense of love and care for a book. If I reread a book and it gives me such strong feelings of either love or heartbreak or care or whatever, I want to reread it. It's a very strange question. People who don't read books ask me this question all the time. They always say, why do you want to reread it? You've read it once, why do you want to do it? I'm like, well, why do you listen to your favourite song over and over again? Why do you watch movies you've seen before? You just do. It's not seemed as strange. If it's a film, people will watch that film 9 or 10 times a year or something like that. People always find it weird when people read books more than once. I don't get why it's so strange, but people find it weird. And that's always the justification I say, because I love it. The same reason you watch movies frequently, the same reason you eat the same meals over and over again, the same reasons you listen to your favourite songs, because it's just great feelings. If you have a good, strong emotional connection to a book, if you loved it so much you just fancy rereading it, there's no reason why. You just do. I want to. That's the main reason. I want to. Question 5 is, how do you reread? Do you do it faster, slower? Do you just read the best bits? I read probably at the same rate. I don't read any faster because I know what's going on. Sometimes I might just be able to skim through parts of the book that I think are boring, but it's not a case of I'll only reread the best bits. I will reread the full story and I will reread it at the same rate. On occasion I might read it faster, but chances are I'm going to be reading it at the same rate. Who or what do you reread more specifically? Authors, genres, or a specific book? For me, any book I read and enjoyed, I am going to reread it. There is no specific, oh, I only read this author more than once because they're my favourite, or I only reread fantasy or something like that. I will reread anything. I don't mind. If I enjoyed it enough that I want to read it again, then I will. If I absolutely love a book but I don't see any reread potential, then I'm done with it. It can go. If I enjoy a book and think, you know what, I would love to read that again one day, I will. There is no sort of standard I have to meet. If I want to reread it, I'm going to. There is no sort of specifics. I will reread anything as long as I liked it. Question 7. Is there a book you have found better when you reread it? Quite a few. The majority of the books I prefer. Thrillers, I absolutely love. A lot of people have said they don't reread thrillers because they already know the twist ending now. They already know what's coming and they don't see the point. There's no more enjoyment to get from it because they've read it once and they know what's happening. They know the twist, etc., etc. And I get that. For me, I love reading thrillers a second time round because I love looking for the things I missed. I love looking for the hints and the clues that I might have missed the first time. Yes, I know what's coming, but let's see how it got there. And with thrillers, I always feel as though it stands the test of time for me once I do a second read. And I always read thrillers at least twice before I make a final decision. If I read a thriller, for example, and I loved it, it's great, 5 stars, amazing, I will 100% reread that a second time, not because I enjoyed it, because I want to check it will stand up. Now I know what's coming. Now I know who the killer is, for example. I want to go back and see if I can see clues. If there are some clues all the way throughout, and I can see them and I'm like, oh, of course it was this. How did I not realise? I'm stupid for not guessing. The answer was right there. Then that is amazing. I love that. That is my favourite, and that is what makes a thriller perfect for me. If I reread it and then I get to the end, I'm like, there was actually no hint that this was what it was. Like, it just came out of nowhere, so I understand why I didn't guess it the first time. Then maybe it was not as good as I first thought. Maybe I just got caught up in the reveal and I gave it a good rating because of that. And that's kind of how I pick my favourite thrillers. Because I read so many, I need a system to pick my favourites. And I love rereading books a second time, especially thrillers, because I can implement that system. I can find out whether a book is truly good or whether I got caught up in the reveal. Because a lot of people know me. I am someone who loves an ending. The book can be awful, but if the ending is good, I will give it a 5 star. I'm that person. And same, I can read a 5-star book. If the ending's bad, it will get a 1 or a 2 star, no matter what. And sometimes I admit I've got caught up in an ending and I've given a book a 5 star and it probably shouldn't have gotten a 5 star. And I know that it shouldn't have gotten a 5 star. So I'll need to reread it and see if there are any hints that that was the case of why I gave it a 5 star the first time. That's how it works. A lot of books I've reread and found out they've been excellent the second time round. That was a very long-winded answer. I'm so sorry. Question 8. Is there a book that you have found worse upon reread? There probably have. There probably has been. But I don't know. Like, I can't think of any that I have read and thought, oh, this was worse the second time I read it. I tend to erase those books from my mind. If I read a book and I enjoyed it and then I reread it and I didn't enjoy it as much, then I know they won't stand my test of time, as I've just mentioned in the last question. And I'm just like, right, I've read it now. It's not a favourite anymore. Bye. And a lot of people will criticise that. A lot of people will say, why would you do that and why would you act in that way with books that you loved, almost with the intention of getting them off your favourites list? If you thought they were a favourite, why would you look for problems? And I don't do it for loads of books. I don't do it for things like fantasies or romance or dystopians or anything like that, because I don't read enough of them. I'm more than happy to have a list of fantasies that I love or something like that. But when I read so many thrillers, a lot of them are classed as my favourites. I love the majority of thrillers. I rarely give a thriller a less than a 3 star because I always love them. So I always have to be a bit harsher with thrillers. And I think people are quite harsh with their favourite genres anyway, because they know so much about it, they've read so many books. It's much more likely that you're going to be harsher with those. And that's what I do with thrillers. I am harsher with them because I read them, and then upon a reread, if they don't stand up as well as they did the first time, I forget they exist, because I've got too many thrillers that I can class as favourites. So I need to cull my collection. And the final question is, which one book have you reread the most times? Ironically, it's a book I don't own anymore. A while ago, like my very first unhaul on this channel, I threw it out. I don't know why. I think I did it because I convinced myself that I was never going to reread it. And then after I threw it away, I was like, you've reread that book like 9 or 10 times in your life. Like, why are you convinced you're never going to reread it? And now I can't stop thinking about it because I just want to reread it. But I'm going to get a new copy. The book I reread the most times is Flowers in the Attic by Virginia Andrews. It is an amazing book. It is one of my favourite books of all time. I love it. It's fantastic. It's not anything like my typical kind of book, yet I've reread it the most times because I loved it. It's a story about a group of siblings whose father gets killed and their mother can't afford to keep them all because she doesn't have a job. It's set, I think, in the 50s or something like that, when women weren't really working. They were just housewives. And basically the mother moves them all to her parents' house, but her parents will only give her some money and give her financial aid on the condition she doesn't have children. So her father is dying, he's very ill, and she decides, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide the children in the house. She hides them in the attic with the help of her mother, who not happy about it, but she's willing to help. She hides the children in the attic until her father, who is on his deathbed, passes away. And it's about that story. It's about the children in the attic and how being in the attic affects them, how going back to this life the mother ran away from one day affects her. It's a very interesting, deep, complex story. And it actually has a lot of sequels, but I don't like them. I've read them, hated them. So I just class Flowers in the Attic as a standalone book now. And that is it from me. That is the entire tag. I've given a very long-winded answer or two. I'm sorry about that. Not the best, but hey ho, it's fine. I'm going to tag a few people. I'm going to tag Lauren from Lauren's Library, and I'm going to tag Mel from a book fiend named Mel. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you leave me a like and subscribe, and make sure you leave me a comment down below. Other than that, guys, I will see you all in the next video. Bye.
SafeMusicList.com. Royalty-free music for marketing and promotion.